worship leader at a church in town. Amanda, when you came to Nashville, we spoke corporately, we spoke briefly on the idea of that God's doing something with our eyes open, and not being afraid on the stage and not being afraid of what God's doing in the room. Could you all, to all of you, elaborate fear of what inadequacy, as I stumble to get this out, is been one of the things that has held me back. And I was hoping that you all would share your experience as to what that looks like, and not being afraid to open your eyes and to truly embrace and see what God's doing in front of you.
Come on now. Come on. They always try to give me the mic first.
He said your name. He said your name.
No, he asked all of us though. He asked all of us.
But your name
I
was.
didn't think about it. Oh, the mic's not working.
Oh, look at that. Another mic. Won't he do it? There it is.
I just want to think about it.
Well, I did say that, didn't I? And I'll come back to haunt you. No, I love your heart, man. You've got so much goodness inside of you.
Yes.
It's true.
There it is.
We're talking with our friend Krista today about how we're the landing pad for all of the goodness and mercy of God. If goodness and mercy truly follows us every day of our lives, that's what we were created for. I think that's what takes care of the fear of looking out into a sea of people. And because often I would say, from my own personal experience, I close my eyes, I like shut tight, because I was like, I just want to focus on you, God. I just want to focus on you. And I think part of the focus is that He's inside of all of us, and so when we open our eyes, we get to see God manifesting in all of us and celebrate in family style. And it actually takes it out of this like vertical, constipated me and you. Oh God, would you show up for us? Show up for these people. We all need you. Let's all close our eyes because we all need to focus. I think, I think that actually the church was in a really beautiful time of that. I think all of us need to get to that place like, okay, it's you and me. At the end of this, it really is you and me. No one else is going to die with me and pass over and have this conversation with Jesus, in the moment. But I think I will quote Johnny Helser in saying that the more that heaven comes to earth, the more earth will look like family. And I think family looks like seeing each other with our eyes wide open.
That's right.
It doesn't look like being blind. It looks like, being blind to seeing us in our full vulnerability, And so I think that it's just a love thing. It's a love and a goodness thing about starting to recognize Him in everyone, what He's doing in all of this.
It's a vulnerable thing to open your eyes and know that you're being seen. When we're nervous, when we're afraid of how someone is perceiving us or receiving us, we tend to look off. And I don't know if you've ever studied the positions of the eyes, but they tell an awful lot. Where we're looking when we're talking, and there's a lot of psychology behind that, but there's a reason for it. It's because intimacy happens when we look each other in the eyes, and we're not afraid to stay there. We have an awful hard time, just staying put, we talk, we're thinking, and we're looking off and all that kind of stuff. Most of that comes because we're just afraid of it. We've been afraid to lock gaze and actually stay there because you're like, oh my goodness, they're seeing me, they're seeing into my soul. Yeah, you're uncomfortable. Because so all of that is part of removing the space, returning to our original intent, which is closeness, which is intimacy. I don't think that worship has always looked the way that we look at it now. I think in the garden it looked like just being inseparable. They didn't have a stage with lights. It wasn't just singing, it was being close. It was going for walks. Yeah. It was seeing each other like family, eyes wide open, just like Amanda said. So we could go there forever, but there's nothing inadequate about you.
That's right.
You got everything you need.
That's right.
Open your eyes and let people see you because you're beautiful to see.
I want to tell a really, really quick story. We were in Hawaii a couple years back, And we were leading worship one morning, and the whole night my kids were up sick. And so that was really exhausting. And then I just told John, I'm like, I just can't lead this morning. And so he went and led. And then I came a little bit later, and the Lord said, why don't you just go on up there? And I was like, Lord, I don't want to go up there. And he's like, why don't you just go on up there? So I reluctantly went up, and I stood at the mic and did the position that if you're a worship leader, when you don't really want to be there, but you're there anyway. And you assume the position, like. And the Lord, I felt the Lord come up to me. He said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to get in the zone, Jesus. Obviously. He said, really, what are you doing? And I'm like, Lord, you know what I'm doing. I'm like trying to get in the zone. Like eyes shut, tight, and he said the third time, so what are you doing? When the Lord asks you something 3 times, you don't say the same answer. Okay? FYI. And he said, we were at a missions base in Kona, a YWAM base, and he said, open your eyes. And I opened my eyes, and the first person I saw was probably like a 70-year-old Korean woman who had probably given everything to come to this discipleship school in the last part of her life. And she was down on her hands and knees, just weeping and worshiping the Lord. And the Lord said, look, open your eyes. Haven't you come here for them? And it hit me so hard, because that was this was actually many, many years ago. It was a turning point where I went from it was a shift from my vertical to oh wait, if I'm on a stage with a mic, it's not about me and Jesus. It's being amplified because it's actually about the people in the room. And it's about the corporate encounter and connection that we have as humanity together in worship. So.
Hey, I'm Jacob.